only slated for ballot approval today, but if you don't mind, if I could kind of give you an update on the process right now, not just for your own edification, but I think it's important to understand for what we will be approving today, and just so you kind of understand the difficulties that we have been having in preparing this election, largely based on communication that is spotty or entirely lacking from Harrisburg. Okay. I'm hoping that you'll reapprove paper ballots today and initially approve electronic ballots. There's two reasons why the paper ballots need to be reapproved. One is certainly understandable, the other one, I think, not so much. The understandable reason is that there was a candidate on the ballot that we approved 2 weeks ago who has subsequently withdrawn. That's Democratic candidate for Attorney General Don Bailey. So that is a change that we will be, I hope that you would approve on these updated paper ballots. The other is a little more vexing. Most of the candidates, or a significant number of the candidates on our ballots file in Harrisburg. Therefore, we rely on the Department of State to provide us with accurate information about who those candidates are, what offices they are running for, how they wish for their name to appear on the ballot. And the format that was provided to us in past years and initially for this election, right up to that deadline of sending out the military absentee ballots, was incorrect, in the sense that it did not include the middle names of almost any of the candidates or middle initials for those candidates who wanted them. So the ballot that you actually approved 2 weeks ago did not have that information on them. It was only right at the 11th hour, basically, before that deadline, that we received a comprehensive listing of the candidates with their names as they wish for them to appear on the ballot. So the paper ballots that you will be approving will have all of that information as it was listed. One other aspect, and this is probably more vexing yet, the state has no limitation on when a candidate may change the way that he or she wants their name to appear on the ballot. None whatsoever. In fact, this is permissible even after certification. The state has not certified the ballot listing yet. They tell us that it's imminent. They've been telling us that it's imminent for some time, and when I try and get a better understanding of when that will be, it's always pushed off until next day, we hope. We've been through several days of that. So the candidates that you see even on the electronic ballot samples are not actually a certified list.
From the state.
Okay, from the state. And keep in mind that because there is no deadline for individuals to change their name for the state, they can certify, they can get a name change from any of the candidates, and the state, my understanding is, will then recertify, and that can happen any time in the process. So I actually was only notified 2 days ago, and it wasn't, or yesterday rather, and it's not even reflected on the PDFs of the electronic ballots that you have there, that 2 candidates filed, I guess in the last 2 days, for name changes. Attorney General candidate on the Democratic side, Patrick J. Murphy, he doesn't want the J in his name anymore, and Democratic candidate for U.S. Congress in the 15th District, Richard David Daugherty, he no longer wants the David. We were communicated, we had this information passed to us from the Department of State, not as direct communication notifying us of this, but rather as part of a 90-page document that they send to us daily, and it is the county's responsibility to dig through those 90 pages and find whatever changes may affect their candidates. Those are the only 2 changes that are not reflected on those PDFs, but I wanted you to be aware of that. And with that in mind, this is sort of our situation. We don't have a certification from the state yet. Hopefully it will be there by tomorrow. Maybe not. I hope so.
If not, hopefully Monday.
If not, hopefully Monday. Right. Honestly, we have sent out ballots in past years without waiting for the state certification. They tend to drag their feet on this. They were supposed to certify as soon as possible after February 29th. We're 15 days past that right now, for what that's worth. So it's not unusual for us to go ahead before official certification. However, with these last-minute name changes, there's a chance that things could change between now and whenever that imminent date of certification is. So that's something to keep in mind. We have already mailed out our military ballots, as we're required to by law, and we've received approximately 150 absentee ballot applications, which are waiting to go out whenever the ballots are approved and you feel comfortable going ahead on that. In this stage of the election cycle, we're about 1 to 2 weeks behind where we normally would be to start sending out absentee ballots. And for folks who are going on trips in an RV or going across country where we would have to send them absentee ballots care of another individual at that address, that's why we want to move ahead on this rather than wait, because that throws some wrenches in the process. Finally, this is as late as we have ever been in prepping the machines, never mind necessary proofing that can only begin when we approve the listing of candidates on the ballot, information we have to send to the voting machine company for audio files, and any sort of testing. So we're really as far as we have ever been without okaying the ballot. And that's why I bring this before you have the opportunity to review and reapprove the paper ballots and ultimately the electronic ballots. That's where we stand. And it's a bit of a sticky situation. Not necessarily different from in the past, except that things have been changing in communications from Harrisburg, and that could affect what goes on Lebanon County ballots. So, with that said, that's a lot to throw at you, and I apologize I couldn't send that to you in memo format earlier, but I'm only finding out this stuff day to day sometimes. So, are there any questions you have on the board level you'd like me to try and address?
Anybody have a question?
No, I think that our first charge is to conduct the ballot in a safe manner and guarantee that it's accurate. So in order for you to be able to do that, we need to move ahead. I think that it's not a matter of excluding candidates. It's a matter of their personal, almost like a vanity plate, how they would like their name to appear. They will be included on the ballot, but if they change other things after we go to press, so to speak, well, we apologize, but we do need to conduct a safe election. That's how I feel.
Go ahead with the information that we have right now and get the ball rolling on that, or would you like me to wait until we have at least an official certification and move ahead then from that part? Whatever recertifications they do later on,
But
too bad.
what I'm hearing is that will jeopardize the process to get the audio ballots prepared. It will jeopardize the process for proofing and all the programming of the machines. You have a lot of work to do. We can't wait any longer is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And to do so would jeopardize the entire election versus a vanity thing. I'm calling it vanity because of the vanity plates, to change how someone's name appears. They will be on the ballot. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, and I just put that out there to you so you know sort of what the details are and where we are vis-a-vis the certification
Right.
coming from the state. So,
I'll make a motion that we approve the ballots as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you, I mean, if Mr. Doherty decides that his name on a certain ballot, he didn't want to have David in there, and Mr. Eaton beats him, that he could possibly sue the county because it wasn't presented on the ballot as he saw fit?
I don't know what constitutes grounds to sue or not sue, but obviously in the past we have always done it in accordance with what was the known information from Department of State, and we have not had problems in the past with that changing. This is the first time that this late in the game we have had information changing. So we have always strived to do whatever the Department of State has sent to us, but we are now informed that we have a situation where, in theory, 2 weeks before the election, a candidate could file a name change, and I hear from Department of State that they would okay that and they would recertify the election. So that is probably an extreme example, but we've never had name changes this late in the process to begin with. That's the sort of situation that we have to have a practical solution to so that we can ensure that the machines are ready to go, that everything is properly programmed and proofed and tested. That's what we're dealing with, sort of on the county end of things.
I tell you truthfully, you said before that you thought that
We've never had name changes that are given to us as part of a 90-page document the day before we go for electronic ballot approval, and we kind of are not told directly that from Department of State, but we have to find it from other county election officials who happen to be reviewing the same document and say, hey, did anybody else notice that this individual doesn't have a middle name? We need to call Department of State and see what's up. Is this an accident? Is this an error? Or is this intentional? And that's the sort of environment we're trying to operate in time for Election Day.
Is this the Corbett administration reinventing the wheel?
I mean, I can't speak for what happens in Harrisburg, but I can tell you the folks that we're dealing with at the Department of State, many of them were there in the prior administration, so it's not that there's new blood at DOS as it pertains to the elections process.
How about at the top of the food chain?
I have no idea.
Thank
I
you.
don't think we want to cast a doubt on this election. The people are included, their name is their name. Sometimes John Smith might not have a middle initial, but if it's the announced candidate, you know who that John Smith is. We have counted, every time we certify the ballots locally, we take those things into consideration and would have to do so again if there would be a last minute name change. Is it the person that was announced, or isn't it that was on the ballot and won the election? In my mind, it's clear they are, and there should be no challenges. Anybody can challenge, it doesn't mean they'll be successful.